welcome back. It's Anything Goes with Jackson Neill, and today my interview is with Phil Hurley of the South Austin Moonlighters, a group down there that I got passed along to check out, and I really fell in love with their latest album. I'm talking with Phil about the making of that project, but first, before we jump into all of that, you can find this podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, all of those great places, but also JacksonNeillPodcast.com. That's where I post all of my content from now on, whether from the Anything Goes or my other podcasts, so make sure to go over there and check that out. Now, time to jump into this interview with Phil Hurley of the South Austin Moonlighters. They are gearing up to release their project, Travel Light. By the time you guys listen to this podcast, it might already be out. It's slated for a May 17th, 2019 release. I talked with Phil about the making of the album. They had Anders Osborne produce it, and just what it was different with this being their fourth album, and in their mind, one of their kind of biggest in terms of production album they have had before and really focused project. I talked with him about all of that and much more. It was a really fun conversation with Phil, and here it is. So you guys are currently playing some live shows around the Texas area. How's that been going?
Well, we work every single week. We've been a hard-working band now. We've been doing it for about 8 years, but for the last 4, we're out doing probably between 170 and 200 shows a year. So we play every week, and bit by bit, we've really expanded our territory from just Texas to New Mexico and Oklahoma and Louisiana. We just got back from being in Nashville last week. So it's really encouraging. I mean, really just in the last 6 months, we're starting to hear the words South Austin Moonlighters and sold out in the same sentence, which is a really nice feeling.
Yeah, that is a nice feeling to see that you guys are able to get some sellout crowds.
Yeah.
So you guys also, you're playing all these shows like you just said. You're one of the hardest working bands. You have your upcoming album, Travel Light, releasing May 17th. Can you just tell me a little bit about the process behind this release?
Sure. This was unlike anything we've done to date, because our first 3 albums, we were self-produced and we put them out on our own. And with this one, we did a Kickstarter campaign initially, which was successful, which we were absolutely blown away by, the generosity and the care of our friends and family and fans. So we went ahead and booked time at a beautiful studio outside of Austin. We went to Louisiana and did it at a place called Dockside outside of Lafayette, Louisiana. And so that was new, and the recording out of our hometown was new. And also, we brought in a producer on this record. It was an artist out of New Orleans named Anders Osborne that we're all big fans of, and we really allowed him to help us sculpt and shape the overall sound of this record. And it really turned into something bigger and better and better. And I think we even had an idea that it could become. Mm-hmm. So that was a big difference. Also, we really, as it came into fruition, we had a record label sniffing around while we were making the record. And they kind of waited to hear how it came out in its finished project before they committed. But Station House Records out of Dallas, Texas, are now fully involved, and they've been a big part of kind of curating this record, how the running order is going to work, which songs made the final cut, the artwork. Like, they really had a lot of input, which is all new for us. But I got to say, I think that the choices were all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I already was able to listen to it. I really enjoyed the project. It's definitely a home run for you guys. But I just want to. I'm just kind of curious. Why did you decide on the 4th release you wanted to do something different? What was it about this one that you guys decided let's get a different producer, let's do something, record out of our hometown, let's do something different?
I think that there's different answers for different questions there. I mean, I really was adamant about let's get out of our hometown, because the way we did our last record, the Ghost of the Small Town record, Ghost of a Small Town, I really love that record, but we did it at Chris Beal, the other guitar player's home studio, and it was very piecemeal. Like, for some of the basics, we were all together, but then, I can come in on Tuesday, but I can't make it until Thursday. So we all kind of went in and did our different parts at different times. We weren't even all there together, and in the end, I liked the record, but I think there's something to getting away from your daily routine, getting away from walking your dog and making your kids breakfast, and just immersing yourself into a project 24/7 that it ends up being a different result. Everyone's headspace was really, really, together and cohesive. And I think that it allowed us, we were all part of every track that went down in just a different way. And we're all cheering each other on and laughing and having fun. And I think that laughter and that fun and that camaraderie is what comes through in the tracks for me. To answer the other part of that question of why we thought it was time to work with somebody else, I think that we had done the best we could at self-producing, but we'd seen the results and we were aspiring and hoping for more. So we thought, hey, maybe somebody else who's had a little bit more success and a little more recognition can help us shape the sound of this band so that it becomes even more than what we do. And that's truly what Anders delivered.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are all some really cool points, especially the one getting out of your hometown and all being together there for each kind of session that allows it to have a more group feeling, and I think you guys achieved that.
Yeah, it really did. We had just brought on our brand new drummer, Daniel James. Our drummer, Phil Bass, who had been with us since the get-go, had enough of the travel, and he very amicably left the band, and we love him to death still. But it was a tough thing to replace him. And so finding Daniel, he came in just at the 0 hour and really brought a new breath of fresh air and a spark of just of energy. And he also was a really good cook. So every evening he would make a big meal for everyone, and we all sat together and ate together. I'm kind of a yoga geek, so in the morning I would make everybody coffee, and we would go out on the lawn alongside this beautiful river, and I would teach everyone yoga in the morning. So it was very we really set up a sense of community amongst this record, where we were all together every day and really enjoying each other. Instead of, there really was very little, bickering or disagreement or any of that kind of stuff that can mire a session if you're not all on the same page. I think we all knew, we were all having fun, and it shines through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I want to touch a little bit more on Anders Osborne and him producing the project. I guess, what do you think that what did he kind of teach you during this process? What do you think he really added to this album that you guys maybe not have expected going in?
A lot, but I think that if there was one fair criticism of our group and our earlier efforts, is that we like so many different styles of music, and having multiple writers, we could very authentically play a lot of different styles of music. We could play a funk song, we could play a country song, we could play a rock song. But I can see how for a listener, we never really thought about this way because we love all those different kinds of music. But I can see how for a listener that could be a little disorienting. Like, what is this band? What kind of band are they? I think Anders had a vision of the common thread that was between all of the writers in the band, and he keyed in on had an end game. Like, I think he really saw how you needed the record to hold together as a cohesive project. And so if things started swinging too far country, he would pull it towards the center again. If it started going too far funky, he would pull it too. He kept reeling us in and forcing us to relearn our own songs on the fly. He would come out, we'd be tracking a song that we thought we knew how it was going to go, and he'd say, nope, change the key, change the tempo, cut this part, and was like, whoa, he kept us on our back heels. And so in a way, he didn't allow us to rely just on muscle memory. He made us really live in the moment. And his quote that he would say over and over again when we were recording was, when you tell me the truth, we're done. So he was really shooting for honesty and intimacy more than perfection. And I think that was really the key. It's easy in this digital age to get mired in, let me do it again, and to make things perfect. But music doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be honest. And that's what we learned a lot from him.
Mm-hmm. I think there's really cool things you mentioned there, especially the whole, having that common thread throughout it, because listening to this project, it was so cohesive. It was, 10 tracks, about 38 minutes, and listening to it, it felt like it was a full album experience. It was a full experience of listening to a project front to back, I would say.
Man, thank you. I really appreciate that. That sure is what we were shooting for.
I definitely think you guys were able to achieve that. And I want to touch on the title real quick. Travel Light, because it's also a song titled that. But I think it kind of struck me. Well, why that title, Travel Light?
I don't mean to get too philosophical about it, but I think that part of what we attempt to do as a band is bring joy. There's enough in our daily lives right now to get disgruntled about. You turn on Facebook or you watch the news. There's so many things that you can just get upset about. And it feels like everybody's so polarized right now that we really thought about it. Like, what if we could make a record that was the opposite? What if we made a tonic to these days that's actually something that made people feel a little bit better about their lives? And I think that song Travel Light kind of has that. It's saying, hey, okay, we get it. Not everything in life is going to be perfect every day, but let's think about the bits that are good, because it's so easy to get lost in the parts that bring you down. And I think that kind of echoes in the song. The first song on the record is one of mine called Feels Like Home. It's another one that's saying, I've been down, but it's getting better, and I hope that there's a little bit of optimism and hope in this record, because that's what we were shooting for.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, and I think it also is like portrayed in your, in the cover art for this. I see you guys walking down there. You guys are just, you're just smiling. I look at that alongside the Travel Light title, and I mean, just looking at it, even, and knowing the record, it just brings a smile to my face. It's a very warm and happy record.
Well, that was intentional too. We had an idea of what we wanted for the artwork, but that really came from the record label. And when we first heard what he was saying, I was like, really, we're going to be walking down the street with, I was like, that. It seemed so trite. But then once we saw it come together, I was like, I get it, and I get it, because that's what Anders wanted too. Anders, like he said on the album cover, I just want a picture of the four of you guys smiling, because that really is who we are. We really do genuinely care about each other. We've been doing this for long enough that we couldn't do it if we weren't really good friends, and I'm glad that some of that shines through.
And I think that gets back to the honesty as well. Like, you were telling me that he kept on saying is that being brutally honest and transparent. Like, this is just us. This is just us walking down the street having a good time together as friends. Yep.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm. So, you guys you're from the Texas area, South Austin. Just how much does your guys' home state, how much does that really influence your music and influence how you guys record and everything?
Well, I'm the only non-Texan in the band, so I think sometimes I've got a little outsider's perspective. Speaking specifically of Austin, I think that I think that Austin's a great blend in that it's had a tradition of great songwriters for years, but it's also had a tradition of gun-slinging guitar players. So I think that we kind of are a cool melding of both of those things. We're trying to carry on the tradition of songwriters like Townes Van Zandt and Jimmy LaFave and the folks that we love who were storytellers. But Chris and I also grew up listening to David Grissom and listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan and listening to Stephen Bruton and like these, every day in this town you can go out and see a guitar player that will humble you quick. But so I think that that's a special blend that is Austin. We don't really get to play in our hometown very often. We're headliners in town, and we try not to wear our welcome out, so we only play in Austin maybe once every 2 months. And the rest of the time, we're out working everywhere else. So, part of that question I don't really know how to speak to. I love living here. I love going out and supporting the music community here because it's so vast. And I think that there is a sense of camaraderie amongst the music community here instead of competition, which I really love. I've lived in some other cities where it was a lot more cutthroat. But Austin keeps evolving and keeps thriving. There's so many different types of music here. People think, it's just a country town or it's just a blues town, or it's got everything. And so, you can't really, there's no one definition of Austin music.
Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of goes back to your whole thing you were saying that you guys as a band would play so many different things, and it may be just a reflection of, you're in a spot where everything is shown, where everything is represented.
Yes, I think that's true. And also we've all come up and everyone in this band's been doing it for a long time. So we've all played in a million different styles of music, and I do think that Anders has kind of helped us define our own sound for this record. I'm really curious. We actually had a lot of songs left over that didn't make this first record, and some of them were a little darker, or some of them were a little bluesier. And I'm really curious to hear how the next record comes out too. We've been jokingly saying it has to be called "The Dark Side of the Moonlighters."
Exactly. That'd be kind of interesting to have the happy one, then go right to the other dark side. Show a little variety there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We're not trying to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, exactly. So you have this record, Travel Light. It's coming out May 17th, just in a couple weeks. And you're always playing these live shows, like you said. I guess just how are you feeling right now? How's everything going?
I've been making records since I was 18 years old, and I've been through so many ups and downs with releases and all that kind of stuff that I think that it's fair to say I'm cautiously optimistic. I feel like we've made the right record at the right time for this band, but how it lands with other people, we can't control. So all we can do, like, we had kind of a pep talk in our van on the way up to Nashville a while ago saying, everything that we were hoping for about a year ago is starting to unfold. So let's remember to be gracious and to be, respectful and like come into every situation and just try and hit home runs. Because this, it feels like some of those doors that we've been wanting to kind of have open up to us are starting to, and let's be conscious of it and let's not miss an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited for everyone else to get to hear it. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you.
Again, a big thank you to Phil for coming on to the podcast. Enjoyed talking with him. And remember, if it's not May 17th by the time you guys hear this, it will be soon. And make sure to check out Travel Light by the South Austin Moonlighters. I already got a chance to listen to it, and it definitely is a really, really good project, one that I highly recommend. It's concise, but it really gets to the point. I think it has a lot of clear focus. And I think Anders Osborne and really helped on the production side of it. I have links to check out all of their music, to follow them on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that great stuff. So make sure to go down in the description to check out all of the stuff so you can keep up to date with the South Austin Moonlighters. And if you're down in the southern part of the United States, maybe you can go out and catch a show. If they ever come up to Philadelphia, I definitely will be in attendance. So a big thank you to Phil for coming on to the podcast, and check out everything that the South Austin Moonlighters are going to be up to. And that'll do it for this episode of the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can check out this podcast as well as my sports and music ones at jacksonneillpodcast.com. That's the website that everything I publish is posted on. A link to that in the description. And also down in the description is my link to my Patreon page. If you guys really like this interview, or any other interview I do on Anything Goes, you guys can become a subscriber on Patreon for as little as $3 a month, basically a cup of coffee. And you can go and access all of the bonus content from all of my interviews, whether it's from this one, Phil talking about where I should visit in Texas, what I should do while I'm down there, or any other interview I do talking about their favorite music and just other random stuff that I feel like talking to them about. So make sure to head over there and support the podcast in that way. I do this podcast myself. I solo host it, produce it, all of that stuff. So any little bit of support I get really, really, really does help. Also down there, the last couple links down there are links to my social media at JacksonNeill20 on Instagram and Twitter. If you'd like to keep up to date with the podcast that way, make sure to give me a follow on social media as well. I really do appreciate it. And that's everything I have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.